All right, video on the Innovators West 10 rib conversion kit for the 2010 Camaro SS 6.2 liter. I got a little bit of different equipment on this one because this is Gbody swap specific. Holley Gbody swap bracketry, power steering pump, and a Silverado 2011 Silverado alternator. Just because it was a 2-pin and it fit in the bracket. The Camaro one's freaking huge. So, but needless to say, that pulley bolted on just like it would on the Camaro one. Nothing changed there. I'll start from the top, work my way through the pulleys, what I did. Maybe it'll help you. The Supercharger pulley, straight up bolt on. I didn't do any changes. I found it was sitting out a little bit farther than factory. And by factory, I mean the Magnuson pulley that came with it. I swear this was sticking out a little bit more. And it was evident on that with this pulley for the tensioner, which I spaced out the entire tensioner with those two guys there. So the thickness of those spacers, 0.099 or 2.5 millimeter. Noticed is the size of the pulley is not etched in on the front, it's etched in on the back, and actually once this pulley is bolted up, you can't see that at all because it is hidden by that piece there. But nice easy bolt on. Keep it a secret, eh? This idler was spaced out a little bit in shop. That little bushing there for the idler pulley on the Magnuson setup, it's adjustable. So I wanted this pulley out a little bit. This is the bushing that was in there. I believe this was factory with the Magnuson setup. This is the one I got now. It's slightly thicker here just to bring that pulley out a little bit. It just seemed like that's what I needed. So that's what I had done. Turn this on, give you a measurement here. So factory 0.451 ish. I'm doing this one-handed, so 0.509 there. Looks about right. It's holding it. A little bit thicker. The snout there that rests in the race of the bearing, I left the same length, those two guys. So that was what I did for that one. The water pump, there's a little bit of a process to getting the old pulley off and then pressing this one on. You have to back up. So now what I've done to pull this LS3 Camaro water pump is drilled a couple holes in there. I would love to tap them and use the proper bolts that come with the steering wheel puller. But I don't have a tap, so I'm just going to try and get nuts on the back of some bolts through the steering wheel puller and see if she pulls off. I don't have two of the same length bolts, so as you can see, I'm using what I got. So that first attempt with the two holes using the steering wheel puller didn't go so good. The first bolt just snapped. Second bolts, I went bigger holes. They just bent, and the steering wheel puller was just walking all over this. So go to the second attempt, grind that groove all the way around, utilizing a power steering pump pulley puller around just like that. I might have to grind a little more, put this on, pull it off. That's what we're gonna try now. Well, there you have it. turning your water pump pulley into power steering pump pulley style via the grinding wheel, putting your water pump pulley in the sacrificial element of mechanics, but it's off and it wasn't easy. And just for reference, there's my power steering pump puller, or pulley puller, gear wrench 4156OD probably. All right, next step, get the back off this LS3 Camaro water pump. Just kind of pressed in there. I started out, believe it or not, with a butter knife. It was just the right thinness to get under there without really messing anything up too much. Got a couple little scratches and gouges and whatnot, but yeah, I worked it, kind of worked it, banged it all the way around as far as I would go on that side, and then on that side. And then you got enough to get a screwdriver in there, and you just work away at it. She'll pop. That way you can back up the shaft when you press on your new pulley. You have to back it up right here, otherwise you'll just push this whole assembly into the back of this plate, and then you're fine. For the test fit, because I may have had to press this water pump pulley on and off a bit farther, I didn't put the back plate on. So now that everything's looking pretty good, I will pull everything off, pull that water pump off, put a little bit of silicone on here, press this back into the pump, and then we should be good there. So as far as information on how far this water pump pulley is pressed on, I didn't take any measurements, but with the feeler gauge, we will see what we got here. There we go. So one thing I didn't mention is I did clearance the water pump on the back side of this pulley. I just ground out a little bit of aluminum. It kind of specifies that in the Innovators West instructions, but sometimes it might not be necessary, sometimes it will. I did clearance mine just to be sure. I don't have anything on the dampener getting put on. I wasn't involved in that. I took the engine in to get assembled by a professional, and he put that on for me. Just used the factory supplied bolt with the Innovators West dampener. This is an overdrive dampener too, so it's a little bit overdriven. I think 10%. Said he pressed it on, satisfactory to what he thought, and the instructions as per Innovators West used their factory bolt. The ARP bolt wasn't going to work with this, so hopefully their bolt is equally as strong. I do have an aftermarket Molnar crank, which maybe changed the depth of this dampener. You know, maybe it brought it out a little bit, maybe it brought it in a little bit. Well, out obviously, because everything I'm doing is coming out, except for the power steering. I had to machine that in. So, I mean, for you Camaro guys, if you're doing this, that's something that I've done different. Different crank. This is the blower specific hub on this, so it's a thicker hub. You know, a little bit of machine work on the bushing on this idler pulley, which also goes into the Gbody swap bracket. For the idler, we just needed a little bit of clearance because the bracket has two options, and I wanted the use of them. This just didn't quite clear it, the edge here of the bracket, so we took out a little bit of material there, and that's gonna get us the clearance to use both of those positions. I didn't get the number on that, but I'll try the amount of material we took out. Same part, I believe, 914 from Innovators West. So, as you know, I had some of this pulley hogged out a little bit to fit around this two-way, two-position Holley Gbody LS swap bracket, because I wanted to have the option of both and there's tons of meat on this, so did that. But that's the other bushing I had basically made up. So here's the factory one. It came with the Holley Gbody swap, I think. And actually my measurements are on there. The snout that goes into the bracket, I kept that the same. This center one, I wanted thicker to bring that pulley out. So as you can see, it's a little bit thicker, and the total thickness of that, 0.270. And then this one, I made longer so that it would rest deeper into this bearing race, because when you put that in and you look, I mean, it doesn't go all the way through the race. So for that extra little bit of support, I was getting it machined anyways. I made it longer. The total of that one was 0.471. And I actually shaved a little bit more off of that, because when I tightened up the bolt, it actually went against this instead of against the race of the bearing like it's supposed to. So as you can see, just put her on the grinder, nice and flat. I did it on the side here, nice and flat. Use whatever you got to use. Go a bit shorter than 0.471, say 0.468, 0.467. Just a little bit is all I needed to take off of that. And look how much penetration, it's all the way. The bolt is still squishing down on the center race of the bearing like it's supposed to, and that's just there for support. But that's the machine work I did on the bushings for those. Anyways, you get the point. The power steering pump, which is actually the one that comes with the Holley Gbody LS swap bracketry. This is their first style bracket, I believe, a little bit older one. But that style power steering pump, and we machined the bracketry to bring the pump and the pulley in, so eliminating the need to machine any of the pulley itself or the press-on hub. Back from the machine work, what we did is, instead of machining any of the steel hub for the Innovators West pulley or the back of the pulley itself, it's left alone, pressed all the way on. What we did is took out 0.140 thousandths down there where the actual power steering pump mounts itself, and just pulled the whole pump and pulley and everything in at once. Also, to keep that little power steering bracket lined up with the original spot there, because the pump is down, he had spaced it with a couple washers. Hopefully she's nice and straight, and that's going to work for us. We'll be doing a fitment here soon. So with this Innovators West pulley setup, it's got the steel hub which presses on, and then the aluminum pulley which bolts on and off, which makes it easy to get this power steering pump on and off without pressing and pulling that off, stretching it out. You know, you want that original press. It just makes it hold together better, and high performance shit flying around. But pretty cool design. Bolt through. I like it. So one other thing I did with the power steering pump pulley is the bolts that came with the Innovators West kit here protruded so far through that they were hitting that style of power steering pump. It may work with the Camaro one, but not this one. So what I did was just grind the excess of those bolts that protruded through that press-on hub there, just ground those flush, and that gave me enough clearance that it wasn't interfering. Little trick I use, I'm working by myself, to get that tensioner all tightened up, to get this last pulley on there. I mean, normally you set that and do the tensioner, you just tighten it and you can slip the belt on. But with this 10 rib belt and me trying to get as much spring load as I can on the tensioner, this is just how I have to do it. Anyways, got her on there tightened, and I just use a clamp off the water pump thing. And I'm sure you can figure out another way to do it, but that's what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna put that on and should be good. So there you go. I just pushed it in by hand as tight as I could. Be a little bit easier with two guys, but that's how tight it is after letting off. This thing hasn't been run or anything yet either, so that belt's gonna stretch probably just a little bit. Give her a rotation. Came down a little bit, and that's within spec, boys. Pretty happy for me. And then, I mean, there's still more adjustment in there, so if you add more muscle, do the same thing and just push that in a little bit more. It's better too, because it gives you a little bit more belt wrap the farther you can get it in that way, because right here comes straight. But that's her. After spinning her around a couple times, it's hard to see from this angle, but you can see in there it's off the edge of that idler on both sides. There you go. A little bit less on the inside, but that's okay. It's in the middle of the idler. It's not rubbing on the sides. It's not going to chew the sides of that belt. Water pump. We are, oh, there you go. Quite a bit off the front. Still off the back. So, I mean, who cares if it's not even. That water pump one must have an extra wide surface, because there isn't that much extra space on those smooth idlers. But anyways, somewhat centered on the water pump one. I'm happy with that. Alternator, power steering. I mean, those are ribbed, so how lined up they are, it's almost impossible to tell. And then with the bottom idler, really hard to see. I can see it with my eyes. Let's see from the bottom here. Yeah, there we go. You can see on that side, there's a little bit of a gap. On this side, decent gap. I'm happy with that. And then it goes on to the crank and so forth. So I'm thinking I'll probably fire this thing up, run her through some RPMs, and then pull all these off, Loctite them. Probably these guys too, if that's the pulley I'm gonna run. Probably medium Loctite, and won't go fucking crazy and lock her on for life. But same with this guy, that's why I didn't put them all back in. Once I'm all done, run her through some RPMs, make sure the belt's not flying off, then I'll Loctite the shit. And yeah, pretty happy with that. Without that tape on there, man, she looks like a bad bitch. All that aluminium, looking fucking good. It's always fun finding a belt, but this is the one that seems to work for me. I got the tension pretty decent there. And then if you look there, the back of this guy still has room, you know, for adjustment. So you have to be careful. I mean, this pulley, the tensioner can come in, and you don't want them to end up hitting each other. Actually, when you rev the engine, that is the way that it goes, I believe. So be mindful of that. But I think this belt's gonna work. This is the 3.6 pulley. And I believe it's gonna work for the 3.6 or 3.5 and 3.4 pulleys I have as well. And should be good. So like I said, I got the aftermarket crank, Molnar crank, which may have changed the depth of that dampener. So as far as you Camaro guys doing this swap, your shit should bolt right on apparently from this conversion kit, but I don't know. Maybe it will without the Maggie pulley or without a Magnuson on it, but I mean, why are you going 10 rib if you don't have a blower anyways? Maybe you have a different blower, but to me, this was out farther than it was with the factory Magnuson setup. So, I mean, maybe you will have to bring all this out doing this swap on a Camaro. I don't know. Something's a little different there, but I'm pretty sure I got mine all lined up nice. I guess the only real test now is bolting everything up, torquing it up, and firing this engine up and seeing what happens. So